This week marks 200 days since President Donald Trump took office. He's on vacation for the next 2 weeks, 17 days, he says, but that didn't stop him from tweeting. No surprise here. He said the Trump base is far bigger and stronger than ever before, despite some phony fake news polling. Look at rallies in Penn, Iowa, Ohio, and West Virginia. Fact is, the fake news Russian collusion story, record stock market, border security, goes on, military strength, jobs, Supreme Court pick, economic enthusiasm, deregulation, and so much more have driven the Trump base even closer together. Will never change, he says. The president's 17-day vacation began on Friday, and over the weekend, a group ran into him at the Trump National Golf Club in New Jersey. White House insists that the time away is a working vacation. But this video of the president on the green proves the trip is not all work and no play. Let's talk about this. Joining us is Teresa Parent with Red Alert Politics, noted D.C. attorney, Democratic activist. Can I call you an activist?
Former Democratic chair of the D.C. party.
There you go. Okay. Scott Bolden. Sum up, if you will, the first 200 days. I mean, what comes to mind for the president?
I mean, I think what you're seeing here is a businessman learning what it's like to have a country on his back. And the first 100 days he touted, you know, the Supreme Court pick Neil Gorsuch, and now he's running into some roadblocks. And that's to be expected. You're not seeing him change his ways much in his tweets and his approach, but you're seeing him understand what it's like to be president.
Mm-hmm. And he didn't know what it was going to be like to be the president or leader of the Western world. This is not a job where you do on-the-job training, because he touted that he was ready to put America on his shoulders and his back and lead. Let me just say this. When I think about the first 200 days, I think about the Mueller investigation. I think about the failed legislation, health care, where the House, the Senate, and the White House are all led by Republicans despite their blame for the Democrats. And I think about really the offensive tweets that Donald Trump continues to put forth that embarrasses America.
Let's look at some of the numbers from the Washington Post, okay, on the first 200 days. President Trump has signed 42 executive orders, 43 legislative bills. There are 3 Obamacare proposals in the Senate, but no Obamacare bills have been repealed. 0 border walls, 2 FBI directors, 2 White House communications directors, 2 White House chiefs of staff, and hundreds of jobs to fill. What do you guys think? Let's start with the jobs. Okay, the president the other day was taking credit for the stock market. He was taking credit for nearly 1 million jobs, you know, in the first 6 months, and he says he's just getting started. Does he get credit for the economy, the new jobs?
He should get credit in the fact that he has a very business-like sense, and so for that he is saying largely, you know, Dow Jones numbers, you know, prove record the unemployment. But that was his expertise going into this, so that is to be expected. But I don't think it's as much as he touts, and I think that's been common under this presidency. The coal mining jobs are around 1,000. He's touting much higher number than that. But to his credit, people are excited about the economy. No matter what you want to say, people are excited about it.
Well, they're excited about the stock market. He's the president, and so he has to claim victory. But let's temper it with this. Barack Obama, 8 years ago, inherited the worst economy given to him by a Republican. These jobs, and he turned it around through a number of initiatives, these jobs were growing at a significant pace towards the last 4 years of his career. The economy was turning around. The stock market was rising already. And so Donald Trump has to claim that. We can't take that from him, but let's temper it with some reality.
Okay. Real News. Trump TV has launched a new series called Real News. Watch this clip.
More great economic news on Friday. The July jobs report added a better-than-expected 209,000 jobs. Overall, since the president took office, President Trump has created more than 1 million jobs. The unemployment rate is at a 16-year low, and consumer confidence is at a 16-year high, all while the Dow Jones continues to break records. President Trump has clearly steered the economy back in the right direction. On Wednesday, the president introduced the RAISE Act. For decades, a steady rise in immigration has depressed the wages of American workers. The RAISE Act will increase wages, decrease poverty, and save the taxpayers billions. Americans deserve a raise, and President Trump is finally putting the American worker first.
Real news or something else?
Real propaganda, if you ask me. In fact, when I first saw it, I thought about his praise of strongmen around the country, or the world rather. I thought of a propaganda machine. In all fairness, it's a nice piece, it's a good piece, but it does have his name. It's campaign kind of driven, but it has the graphics of a legitimate kind of TV media source.
What do you think?
Look, the president, I would not find it uncommon for the president to create any type of propaganda to swing his way. He's been doing this the whole time. This is nothing new. I think the conversation should be had for some of the things that he has accomplished, which largely we haven't been talking about. And so, yeah, I think to his credit, this is not something uncommon for him.
But the name is real news, if you will. And that is misleading because he's created the media as his enemy, if you will.
That are using no sources.
And that's
What's
really
the single biggest thing the president has accomplished in your estimation?
I mean, 64% low on the border. You can talk. He kept his word to the Paris climate deal. He's got, for the first time, people talking about bipartisanship on health care, whether it's through failures or not. People are saying bipartisanship.
They failed it. It's embarrassing, if you will. Of course, they're talking about bipartisanship.
That people are working together in Congress. When's the last time? Or they're agreeing to? When's the last time?
Let's not get into
Is there anything that Donald Trump has done that you would consider a plus?
I think no, actually, because he steps on his message constantly. The Republicans are at war with themselves. The Democrats have been talking about bipartisanship. The Republicans certainly haven't, and no piece of major legislation has been put through, primarily because Donald Trump either doesn't know what he's doing, or he steps on the message, or he sends out a tweet, and it's just one thing after another.
Give you the last word.
200 days, man. The man has had 200 days to become a businessman to become a president.
You can't learn to be a president on the job.
All right, 200 days. Well, what are we looking for, say, in the next 200 days?
Well, we'll like to see what happens with health care. He's got big role to fill with budget. So I mean,
confident about tax reform, confident about infrastructure?
Well, I like to see more on tax reform, that's for sure. We've been very lost on that so far.
And ironically, that might be the bipartisan issue along with infrastructure that gets both parties together if he steps out of the way.
Okay, all right. Coming up next, Howard Bernstein with a look at what we can expect from these storms this week. But first, here's Stephen Colbert's take.